Hi, I'm Avalon Starlight, and you are listening to the Rebel Unicorns podcast. This season, I'm super stoked because we are talking about something very near and dear to my heart, chakras, and how they can completely transform your life and your business. Listen each week as I share my own chakra experiences, as well as introducing you to incredible guests with their own chakra stories. Are you ready? Let's get our rebel on. Hey, Rebel Unicorns. I am so excited because I have one of my favorite people to interview today. Like, if you want to talk Rebel Unicorns, this guest today basically takes the cake. Like, if we were to look up Rebel Unicorn in the dictionary, their face would be there, looking as incredible as it is in the video today. Because this human literally, I don't think, has followed any of the structures or models based or placed out into the world by society. I'm pretty sure you've busted through every single one of them. And so I'm excited because this person is one of the most creative, expansive, like powerful, especially when it comes to your social content, human ever created and put into a human body. So please help me in welcoming Beck Power to today's podcast episode.
Holy crap, that was like the best intro ever.
I say to everybody, like, the intro is my favorite part of doing the whole podcast. We can be done now. See you later.
I love it. Thanks, man.
Bios and that I get to share your signature, your vibrational frequency with the listeners by getting to just allow it to flow through me into them as an instant like hit of dopamine.
Love it. Thank you.
So, Beck Power, what is your unicorn house?
Oh my God, that was one of the questions on your podcast thing, and I think I forgot. Cosmic.
Did you take the quiz?
Yes, and I forgot. And now I've seen your post so many times of the different ones that now I've just got like elemental stuck in my head. But I'm pretty sure it's cosmic. I'm
gonna look real quick because I got the intro, the no. I can just press this little button and it'll tell me what you put in your little form. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but I think I literally wrote, I forgot.
You did too. You are. See, I listen. You are just simply proving my intro correct, that you are the poster child for the Rebel Unicorn, the one who comes onto the podcast without even knowing what their Rebel Unicorn house is. So I think that's actually kind of funny.
I am pretty sure that I'm cosmic.
You know, I think that I would challenge you on this, and I think you're elemental.
Oh, then maybe that's what's stuck in my head.
I think that as an elemental is exceptional at starting a bunch of things and just wanting to like create it till it blooms and then move on to the next.
Oh, and that sounds nice. Yeah.
That sounds about right. A cosmic is somebody who like wants to like get right in with one person at a time and like, no. Take it back. That's why I'm like, I'm vetoing the cosmic for you.
Although I think you told me one time that I was a catalyst.
Did you ever take the quiz? That is the only. We're gonna put this in the show notes, everybody. This is
okay. I'm sure I took it. It was a while ago.
Yeah. Do it again. I want to know.
Okay.
The show notes so that people are listening and who are like, oh my God, what is this thing?
So now we've spent 20 minutes talking about that. Sorry for derailing the conversation completely within 3 minutes of starting.
All because you didn't take the quiz.
I did. I just remember.
I know. Mm-hmm. So tell me, Beck, in a way, let's just say that you are an elemental catalyst, because that feels really resonant to me, because a catalyst is somebody who finds moving parts, so sees a bigger picture that nobody else can see. What is your favorite part about working in social media content?
I like doing something new and then moving on to new things. I get bored of I get bored of doing the same thing over and over again. So I do a thing and then I'm like, cool, what else? How else can we make this better? What else can we add to it to make it more valuable for people? How can we structure the program or the product differently? So I love coming up with like solving the problems that people have in social media. Usually that problem is that they have either too much content and they don't really know what they're doing with it, or it's not like structured in a way that's getting them results. So I like to look at it and see if I can fix it to make it more effective for people so they get more leads from their social. Pretty much those things. And one more thing, I like spreading people's message, creating a clear message and helping that message to go out into the world to help people and, to get more people and put their face in front of more people.
I love that. So you know that you're in Solar Plexus week. That was a nod.
I do.
Those that are listening.
Yeah. Sorry. My face is like, yeah. Yes, I know it's Solar Plexus week. I'm very excited to talk about that. That's, it's very clear to me why you chose me for this one, because that was our very first conversation.
Did you actually go back and watch the video in like homework or like to prepare yourself for this podcast?
No.
Oh, I was just curious because I know that you had gone back and watched the very first call that we had where you made.
I remember I watched it again after we did it, and I remember a lot of what happened during that call and how I felt and what you said to me.
So for those who are listening, what does the Solar Plexus represent for you?
Based on our discussions, it's a lot about worthiness. That's it for me.
It's pretty bang on. You don't have to try and figure
worthiness.
out, today, right?
Yeah.
And so how has worthiness played a role in your life, in your business, in your relationships?
Oh man, that's a big question. I have had so much of my life, like looking back, it's almost a binary difference between pre-Tamara / Avalon and post, honestly, because so much of my life was very, I just felt unworthy. I felt like I didn't deserve to have the things that I wanted. And that belief was keeping me held back from everything that I was trying desperately to reach. And I called you so many times, like crying and just like, why can't I just have the things that I want? I'm doing all this work. I'm trying. And it was like I was running on a wheel or something. And I just couldn't get, and I remember saying to you, I remember in multiple calls, maybe more than 3 or 4 calls, being like, what? I just want this, which was mostly money most of the time, let's be honest. And I can't, and I want to feel like free to have these things. And I just couldn't, why can't I make it happen? And that was like the recurring thought in my brain. It was like on a loop for, I don't know, 10 years before, and I had left a church. And so I think that was playing into a lot of my, unworthiness issues. And was I deserving of things? And was I going to go to hell for being gay? And all these things that were in my head. It was really awful. And it just really felt like I was stuck. And I remember when I first met you and you were talking about, energy and all this stuff. And I was like, I'd love to do a call with you and figure out what that means, like what you're talking about, because I need something. And I couldn't figure out what, like I had tried to figure it out on my own for so many years. And I had just been like broke and unhappy and just things were not moving for me. And after we had our call, I literally was like, I don't care how much this is. If you're telling me that this is a thing that I can change and you have a way to change it, just like, let's do it. I don't care what it is. I don't care what it costs. I don't care what I have to do. Let's do it. Because that conversation really switched things for me from having so many similar conversations with people where I was kind of like hesitant. Oh, I don't know if this is going to work. Oh, I don't know. Blah, blah, blah. And I just got so sick. I think all the changes in my life, this is a really long answer, sorry. I think all the changes in my life have been at the point where I got sick of myself and sick of whatever the thing was at that time, that I was like, oh my God, I'm not fucking dealing with this anymore. I'm done. Like, I have to solve this right now. Somebody take my money, somebody do the thing, like help me to do the thing, because I am done. And there's been a lot of levels even since then where I've reached that, the next, whatever you call it, plateau or something.
Yeah.
Where I'm like, I'm done, next, next, please.
Well, you
and it's
talked
gotten
about,
a lot. Go
like,
ahead.
I just want to, because I love the answer, and you did a significant job of dropping these little bombs as to these could be the reasons why my solar plexus and my worthiness issues were present, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, the church and the gayness, like you're gay, but like the way that you just said it, it could be this, it could be that,
Mm-hmm.
it could be all these different parts. So can you give a little bit of backstory here, Beck, onto, you know what I mean, where you believe that, and it could have been before the church, it could have been anywhere where you believe that, potentially the seed of the unworthiness was planted. And then
Yeah.
obviously the church could have watered the seed and,
Mm-hmm.
not feeling like you could come out waters the seed.
Yeah, certainly. I don't remember a lot of when I was young. I think I've blocked out a lot of that time. And so I always have trouble with those exercises where it's like, oh, when was your earliest memory of blah? I'm like, I remember a few early things. There was a bunch of times where I did something dumb, or it wasn't even dumb. Like, it was just a silly thing that everyone does. But I would think about it, and I would think and feel really bad about it. I lost the lid of my dad's drink bottle once in a river, and he said, never send a woman to do a man's job or something to make a bunch of people laugh. And then I was like, oh, and I went and sat up on a hill, really mad about it. I sat on a bumblebee. The bumblebee stung my butt. It was a really interesting experience that has stayed with me. But stuff like that's just like so ridiculous and has no bearing on whatever. Like, honestly, nothing extreme really ever happened to me. But it doesn't matter, because anything that sticks in your brain like that is just, and then for me, I have kind of an obsessive thinking thing where things roll around in my head a lot of the same cycle. And so I just kept those, and they kept building and building and building and building throughout. And being a woman in a fundamental Christian religion is not an ideal scenario. It certainly wasn't for me. It's not for a lot of people. Maybe it is for some, that's fine. But for me, it was really, it made me feel, I don't know if worthless is the word, but like repressed and unable to express myself the way I wanted to. And I wasn't allowed to live my life the way I wanted. And I just felt as if I never would be able to get out unless I made some insane change, right? That like left everybody I knew, and that didn't really feel like it was an option for me for a long time until it was. And then that change, having to, on the one hand, it was really awesome and obviously an incredible change. But on the other hand, I had to leave everybody that I knew. And I had to build a whole new community of people of my own, which is what I have now. But so that leaving people, there's so much guilt and shame associated with that. And I know you and I have spoken so much about shame, and I think that's probably the feeling that plays here more than anything else. And I know that I connect that with my solar plexus, the feeling of shame, which I think is maybe even a better descriptor than unworthiness. There's so much in my life that I'm ashamed.
Like, that's a big, like, life decision, right? Like, for two purposes and two reasons. One, to get to a place of such discomfort that the current reality that you were living in was just, it didn't fit anymore, right? So that you have to get to that level of discomfort in the first place, right? And then there's the second level of discomfort, which is severing the ties and everything that you had known. How old were you when you stepped out of the church?
When I stepped out fully, I was in my 20s. There were times earlier than that, I remember thinking, I am going to have to leave. And then I would push the feeling out of my head. Like, I just knew that I wasn't going to be sticking around when I was younger, like 15 maybe. And I remember thinking like, oh, when I was 15, I remember thinking that this wasn't going to be forever, but I was too scared to do, I didn't have another option. I didn't have anywhere to go or anything. So I just stayed and then for me, there's so much shame. There has been so much shame attached to pretty much every decision I've made, because most decisions have a pro and a con, right? And so it doesn't matter about the pros. Every con to me was a shame, a source of shame. Like, it doesn't matter about what I won or what I gained. It's like, but this thing happened. You left these people behind. You've disappointed your parents. What about your brothers? Like, they would have benefited from me staying in New Zealand, or they would, there was always things that I had to say no to, just to kind of sacrifice, to give up to have what I wanted. And that shame, I mean, it's not like there's no shame anymore, but I'm certainly able to look differently at the situation and know that there's always going to be costs associated with the decisions that I make. And I just don't let the shame now affect me the way that it used to.
Well, and then this is another piece, this could even steer into a little heart chakra here, is the carrying the responsibility of how other people respond to your decisions and your actions and your experiences and things like that, right? And being willing to kind of be like, that's not mine. Okay, that's not me for me to carry. Now, I am bringing this in because I just feel like this is a really resonant piece to talk about, because, you were growing up in a place where, I mean, there was a firm, definitive, this is a male role, this is a female role, right? And then amongst that, you have this underlying sense that you are not either of these particular roles. How young were you when you realized that you did want to be with women, and how did that play out in like you wanting to leave?
That's such an interesting question, because I didn't really this is going to sound weird, and I don't think that most people will understand it, but I'm going to explain it just in case. I didn't think about it that way for a really long time. I have been attracted to girls since I was a little girl, like 5 is the earliest, right? But I never made that connection in my brain, because the way that I won't even say the church, the way that my upbringing was, it just, I knew I liked girls, but I couldn't, I would have never called myself a lesbian, or it's like there was a little connection missing in my brain from, I know that this happened, or that this, I want this thing to happen, but I'm just gonna ignore that that's in my brain, and just, I don't like men, and I'm just not gonna date. Maybe I'll be a nun. Maybe I'll just be like a missionary or something, and just go to like Africa and do a thing and never have to deal with, maybe I'm like asexual or something like that. That's probably, but I just never really would look in the direction of that thought, if that makes sense. And so I didn't for a really long time. And when I was in my mid-20s, I just, I wasn't hanging out in the groups that I was anymore. I was hanging out with people who weren't in the church, and there were gay people in my friend circles. And so I was able to like see the possibility of, that and not being in the church. And then I was able to go, okay, I'm not scared of the outside anymore, because it's not as scary as people say. And there's the ability to just be whoever you are. So I'm going to do that instead.
Okay, I want to introduce, I'm super, super curious right now. And this is maybe an inappropriate question, but right now I'm like, oh my God, I can't even imagine. What was your first kiss like?
Drunk. And just like shocking. And I immediately felt ashamed.
Did you?
Yeah.
Uh,
It was like so scary. And I called in, it was Saturday night, and I texted somebody the next day because I was supposed to be teaching Sunday school. And I said, I'm not going in. And then I never went back.
that was that.
Yep.
That was the big catalytic change.
Yep.
One fucking powerful kiss, Beck Power. That like changed the course of history right there.
I don't know if the kiss was that good. But for me, it showed me like, all right, I've crossed the bridge now. I'm not going back. So I've always wanted to see in my life what was possible for me. And I've said that to you a bunch of times. I say it to most people, coaches and things like that. Like, what's possible? Because for me, coming out of that church was like coming out of like a cage and opening up the door and coming out and looking and being like in a fucking mountain range. It was like, oh, there's so much that I could do, and I wasn't restricted anymore. And so I didn't have, even though I had a lot of fear and shame and guilt and all that stuff, it hasn't, it never stopped me from doing a bunch of things, but it did stop me from, I guess, doing those things at the level that I wanted to do them, if that makes sense. So like money, it stopped me, in the area of money, relationships.
Well, I mean, we're talking about solar plexus, which is what our beliefs are. What are we saying about ourselves?
Right.
How are we connecting to ourselves, right? Like we're either carrying the beliefs that other people have given us, that we've witnessed or experienced our parents showing us, or we are creating our own beliefs, which in itself requires some dismantling of what was in order to create what is.
Yeah, exactly.
So, I mean, you were probably one of the most significant shifts that ever occurred in the Chakra Business Academy.
Nice. Yeah, it's honestly been a really amazing, I don't know, year and a half.
Yes.
I feel like I have lived 1,000 lifetimes in that time and changed so much about who I am. And the stuff around me has completely shifted. Of course, I always worry when I say stuff like that I'm like bragging that my life is perfect, and it's not. Big surprise. But so much has shifted for me that I really just feel it's a shock. It's shocking how much has shifted, because the person that signed up to have that call with you that day, and I remember crying a bit on the call, and you were like, oh, your solar plexus doesn't want me to go in there. And I was like, oh, I don't know what that means. I just found out about this chakra thing a day ago, and now I'm like, my solar plexus, what's going on down there? I don't know, but I was so tired of myself and where I was stuck, and I couldn't figure out for the life of me what had been going wrong. And I think that was the first thing that I did, was the Chakra Business Academy, was figure, okay, I'm going to do this thing. And it helped me in a ton of ways, which I don't know if we'll go into, maybe we will. And then I did, I've worked with a few people since then it's almost like rungs of a ladder. And I had to unlock some stuff at the beginning, or even be open to unlocking some stuff at the beginning. But I wouldn't have been able to if I didn't know what the stuff was, which is why I had been stuck for so long, for like 10 years previously, more, 12, 15, whatever. Like, I was so stuck, and I wouldn't have been able to unstick myself without going through that process. I
think that this is a powerful thing that people don't realize, like outside of our work together, that the key to really understanding like how to create more wealth, more abundance, more intimacy, more relationships, more life, more like all of these like nurturing, like high vibrational experiences, comes from really getting clear on what's going on within your own internal landscape, within your own internal body, right? Because it's like we try and solve the problems outside of us, like you had said. Like I was looking to everything and everyone, trying to be like, this'll make me feel better, this'll do it, that'll do it. But it wasn't until you looked like in Beck Power's like being to the deep seat of the soul of your essence.
Exactly. You know, that's interesting you use the word being, because I was reading, I read something of David Nagel's recently, and it really stuck out to me. I wrote it down. It said, I'm going to butcher the quote, but it's that the only thing about getting success is who you are being and nothing else. And I love stuff that says and nothing else, because that makes, oh, cool. This like gives me some certainty, right? It's like, here's what it is. But who you are being. And if I look back on who I was being, who I have been being for the last 10, 15 years versus the person that showed up in the last 12 months, it's just night and day. It's ridiculous, you know, and it's all down to beliefs. It's crazy how much it's all down to beliefs. And I had read all the things before and been like, yeah, beliefs. I did my affirmations. I wrote down the things but it was kind of half-assed. I didn't know if I really believed it. I was really not even sure if what I wanted. I definitely didn't think I deserved any of it. And until I had I cried in some mastermind group I was in at the beginning of this year, because someone had asked me I think it was like, what's stopping you from whatever? And I just was crying and saying, like, I don't feel like I deserve it. And it's not like I'm all entitled now or anything like that, but that belief doesn't exist in me anymore. I don't have the negative self-talk anymore that I used to have at all. It's like I'm friends with myself.
That was the biggest thing. That was it.
You think?
Right there.
Yeah.
That brings me up to the memory of when you were in a dinner and you came out and called me. Do you remember that?
When was that?
Mexico, during Chakra Business Academy.
Oh.
You couldn't go back in the restaurant right away because the negative self-talk was so much at that time. That it just brought me to this. So we talked well.
I did some work with JJ Kelly as well, who's in the Heart Chakra podcast. I'm sure that was amazing. I haven't listened to that one yet. But
it's been a really pivotal thing, because we're talking about being rebel unicorns, but we're talking about doing things that not everybody does in order to understand that, to break through. Sometimes we break down the parts that are, no longer, we dismantle, we are like, most people will maybe even listen to this podcast and go like, okay, well, that's fine. She can do it. She can, I might not feel deserving and worthy, but this person is different. They have something different. Meanwhile, I'm like, rebel unicorns, look at Beck Power has like literally stepped out of a life in her 20s, something that was her everything, her parents, her friends, her, you know what I mean? That's rebel unicorn, stepping into being fully yourself, the embodiment of what love is for you, through you, rebel fucking unicorn. Supporting other people in getting their messages and their brands in front of the right people so that they can be in service. Rebel fucking unicorn.
Yeah, it's so funny when you say stuff like, oh, someone listening might not think they can do it. They might think that I'm different or something. Because anytime I heard stuff like that, that's all I thought about people was like, oh yeah, but they can blah, blah. And I would cry and then go back to my cycle of worrying about money, or worrying that my girlfriend would break up with me, or worrying that I wasn't good enough, which was my whole thing. You made me write out like every area of life where I thought things weren't good enough. It was such a long list. I was like, it's not enough.
Do you remember the very first mantra I ever gave you in the Chakra business?
Oh, I can remember a few. I don't know which one was the first.
I think it was like, I trust that this program is working for me, or
something. Oh, that was, when I was in Croatia. Yeah, I was like looking at a Croatian sunset. That's outside the restaurant. And I trust. Or maybe it wasn't even, I was like, I am willing to trust.
Yeah, I wasn't trust, but it was like, like that, just that this program was working for you, like going all in and understanding, or knowing, I know something along that lines, that it was doing its work.
Yeah, because I had
Would work
previously.
for you because you believed that it wasn't going to work. It's going to work for everybody else, but it's not going to work for me. And I was like, okay, that's not true.
Well, that was my belief. That was my belief that things work for other people. They wouldn't work for me. I'm the exception. You don't understand. This is not, I'm not the type of person I wish that I could be. My whole thing was putting things over here and then not being able to have them because I'm over here. And that conversation that we had, it was like, we have A and B, which is B is over there and A is me where I am right now. And I'm like totally always striving to get to B. You're like, you're in B right now. A doesn't even exist. I was like, oh, that was my brain melting.
We had many brain melting experiences in the weeks that we did together. So what do you feel is the biggest takeaway that you are walking into, like experiencing now, even though it's been a year and a half? Like, what was the greatest takeaway of like learning what the canvas of your internal energy body was like and how to work in it?
I'm not really even sure how to communicate that. I know that there's just so many things and they've all been developed over the last year, which is, all that integration. I think I've become, since one of those conversations, I think maybe the one where it's like it was almost admit that this is working for me. I know that I'm not the exception. I know that now. Like I'm just another person. Anything can work for me. I'm not stuck one way or like destined to fail or anything like that. And one of the best things I did was be really teachable. And I've continued to be that way. That's the way I want to be. That's how I want to show up in the world, as someone who is no longer arguing for my limitations, which I did with you a lot. You had to put up with a lot of that. But like arguing for myself instead of against myself, if that makes sense.
Totally. I had a thought that just came through my mind and I was like, oh, it was so good. And then phew, it disappeared. But I mean, like, I'm grateful because witnessing the expansion of your capacity to serve, right? Like how many more lives you touch. And because of the work that you've done, right? You get to support X amount of people with getting their missions and their visions out without even understanding or even realizing, Beck, that every piece of content that you create that goes out is touching even more people than you even realize. There's no way you can even collect the data on how many lives you touch every single day.
That's amazing, isn't it?
Isn't that a really cool thought to think about?
Yeah, that's really awesome.
Because I don't even know the content that, because I obviously, my favorite thing to do is like work with people and then hire them when they like fully step into their stardust and shine as bright as they possibly can. I'm like, yes, and I want that. The thing that you are creating is absolutely the most powerful thing. So even when I'm placing out the content that we've created together, I don't know how many lives it's touching. So I'm just like it's exponential. Yeah. Right? That once you are clear of these like clutters within you, like it can expand into the nanosphere. I don't even know what that is.
Sounds cool. Sounds cool.
I just wanted to say it. So if you start like a drop of wisdom here right now with people, it can be about your business. It can be, about energy work. It can be, what would you tell somebody who's listening right now?
This popped into my head, so I'm going to say it. I read it recently, that abundance is everywhere in the world. It took me a long time to learn that. Abundance exists already all around you. And all that we do, we don't even create it. All that we do is, all we can create is limitations in that, as far as, we don't need to create abundance because it's already there. We're busy creating limitations and stopping ourselves. And the words like letting yourself do the things instead of making yourself do them. I feel like that to me has made a ton of difference. Just letting, I had my biggest month ever ×3 this last 4 weeks. What? I remember just sitting there going like stunned. And it's not even because I did anything particularly different. It's that I wasn't busy trying to stop myself from getting money.
And mic drop. There we go. That's huge. Huge, right? And I almost don't want to ask the next, like the ending question, because I think that that's such a powerful truth bomb right there, right? But I'm going to ask it anyway because I want to know your answer.
Okay.
Which is, you know, what does being a rebel unicorn mean to you? Like, what does that represent?
Having grown up in a, you know, oppressive environment, let's say, where you weren't allowed to be yourself, you just had to be what you were told to be. It's really a special experience for me. It's like I can see things with different eyes than someone that just grew up that could do whatever they wanted. It's a really special experience to be able to learn about myself and find out who I am and like that. And so that's what it means to me. That's how I get to show up in the world, and it's so exciting to recreate who you are any day that you want, any time that you want. You're not stuck anyway. You could be a painter in Spain if you wanted. You know what I mean? You could go to Australia and swim with whales. You could be any type of person and do anything, and you get to create what that looks like anytime you want.
So true. It's so true. And if people were listening and hearing the impact that you're actually bringing out into the world, and that, you know, you're supporting big visionaries in getting their messages in clear, concise ways into the consumer, into the person who needs to pick up on that vibration. And they're like, how is she making that possible? Where can they find you, Beck, so that they can have that experience for themselves and for their clients?
Yeah, there's a couple of places. The first one is my Facebook group, Social Content Marketing for Coaches and Entrepreneurs. It's just under that if you search that. And the other place is my AMP Content Academy, where we teach all the stuff that I talk about with as far as social content goes, getting more clients and views and attention and followers and making more of an impact and more of an income from social media and social media content. And so that is at powercreativemedia.com.
powercreativemedia.com, everybody. You want to go and check Beck out, because literally it's mind-blowing what happens when you have Beck and her magic in your corner. The impact that you can make significantly goes up. So Beck, I am so grateful that you came on and that you shared your experience, because I know that, I mean, it was a big one, right? And that you were open to sharing that journey and that story. So thank you.
Thank you. It's been really great to catch up again and share a few of these things floating around in my head. So thank you.
I adore you. I cannot wait to share this episode. Everybody tune in, follow Beck, and stay tuned, because next week is Heart Chakra Week with JJ. Even though I've recorded JJ's episode before this one, it airs after this one.
Make sure you tune in next week. Yep.
Oh, yeah.
There you go.
That's a big one. We definitely get caught into talking about grief a lot, which is one of the most powerful catalytic forces that you have in your being, in your body. So you have to tune in for that. And that is a wrap on this episode. Love you all. And yeah, radical self-love, the most rebellious act you can do. Wow, that episode was mind-blowing. I hope you had as many ahas listening to it as I had recording it. I would love to see the Rebel Unicorns podcast spread far and wide across the globe, across the universe. So if you want to share it on your social media with something that you found impactful, leave a review, send it to a friend. It would be so deeply appreciated. Also, a little side note, I did recently change my name. I downloaded a year and a half ago that my name was Avalon Starlight. It was previously my birth name was Tamara Arnold. And if you're interested in learning what your Rebel Unicorn house is, oh yeah, there's a quiz for that. Think Harry Potter, except you're sorted into how you are impacting the world with your stardust and what energy you're here to shift and change. You can find out your Rebel Unicorn house at www.tamaraarnold.ca/quiz. Let me know, tag me in social media, send the quiz out, and join the Rebel Unicorns Facebook group to be in a community of like-minded spiritual entrepreneurs who understand that when you shift your energy, you transform your business.